The auction hall on Station Prime was the largest in the galaxy. It could hold 10,000 beings from 100 different species. Today, it held barely 300. And most of them were only there to laugh. Una Park stood at the back of the room. She was a small woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She had not slept in 2 days. The documents in her bag weighed almost nothing. But they felt heavy. They contained the future of her company, and possibly the future of humanity itself. The auctioneer was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His name was Ambassador Vorlin, and he looked bored. He had been trying to sell these planets for over 200 years. Nobody wanted them. Item number 1, Vorlin said. His voice echoed through the empty hall. Planet designation, DX-14. Located in the outer rim of Sector 7. Previous terraforming attempts, 47. All failed. Current atmosphere, toxic. Surface temperature, variable between -60 and +120 degrees. Water, none detected. The starting price is 1,000 galactic credits. Nobody raised a hand. Nobody even moved. Vorlin sighed. Any interest at all? Silence filled the room. A few aliens whispered to each other and laughed quietly. Una raised her hand. Every head in the room turned to look at her. She felt their eyes on her skin like cold water. The aliens stared at her with a mixture of confusion and pity. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. They were like children playing in a game meant for adults. The human bids 1,000 credits, Vorlin said. He sounded surprised. Any other bids? Nothing. Sold to the human representative. Una wrote down the planet's name in her notebook. DX-14. The first of many. The auction continued. Planet after planet came up for sale. Each one had the same story. Toxic air. No water. Extreme temperatures. Radiation. Acid rain. Volcanic activity. The Galactic Council had studied these worlds for thousands of years. The greatest scientists from the oldest civilizations had tried to make them livable. All of them had failed. The Council had finally given up. These 79 planets were officially listed as impossible to terraform. They were dead worlds that would stay dead forever. Una bought every single one. By the time the auction ended, she had spent almost nothing. The total cost for 79 planets was less than the price of a small spaceship. The aliens in the room were laughing openly now. Some of them took pictures of her with their devices. They wanted to remember this moment. They wanted to tell their friends about the foolish human who bought garbage. Ambassador Vorlin walked over to her after the auction. His 4 arms were crossed, and his blue face showed something like concern. May I ask you something, human? Una looked up at him. Of course. Why did you do this? These planets cannot be saved. Our scientists have proven it many times. The Kalori tried for 300 years. The Mendari used technology that your species cannot even imagine. Everyone failed. What makes you think humans can succeed? Una smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Because we are too stupid to know when to quit. Vorlin stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. I hope you did not spend money you cannot afford to lose, human. These worlds will eat everything you give them and return nothing. Una took the ownership documents from him. Her hands were steady. Thank you for your concern, Ambassador. I will remember your kindness. She walked out of the auction hall and into the bright lights of Station Prime. The station was busy with thousands of aliens going about their daily lives. None of them paid attention to her. She was just another human. One of the small and weak newcomers who had somehow stumbled into the stars. Una found a quiet corner and pulled out her communicator. She pressed a button and waited. A face appeared on the small screen. It was a young man with a serious expression. His name was Tae Kang, and he was waiting for her call on the other side of the galaxy. Did you get them? He asked. All 79. Tae let out a long breath. His serious face broke into a wide smile. Then we can begin. The teams are ready. The equipment is loaded. We just need your order. Una looked at the documents in her hand. 79 dead worlds. 79 impossible projects. 79 chances to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. Send the first team to DX-14, she said. You will lead them personally. Understood. Yuna. Do you really think we can do this? She thought about the question. She thought about all the aliens who had laughed at her today. She thought about the thousands of years of failed attempts. She thought about every scientist who had declared these planets dead. Then she thought about Earth. She thought about the deserts that humans had turned into farms. She thought about the mountains they had moved and the rivers they had redirected. She thought about the cities built on frozen ground and the homes carved into solid rock. Humans had spent their entire history fighting against nature. They had won more times than they had lost. I do not know if we can do this, Yuna admitted. But I know that we have to try. The galaxy thinks we are weak. They think we are foolish children who do not understand how things work. They look at us and see nothing special. She paused. Her eyes were hard now. We are going to show them what humans can do when everyone tells us something is impossible. We are going to take these dead worlds and make them live. And when we are done, the galaxy will never look at us the same way again. Tay nodded slowly. I will not let you down. I know you will not. Now go. You have a planet to save. The screen went dark. Yuna stood alone in the busy station, surrounded by aliens who did not know that everything was about to change. In her pocket, she carried the deeds to 79 impossible worlds. In her heart, she carried the hope of an entire species. The galaxy had thrown away these planets like garbage. Humans had picked them up and seen treasure. Only time would tell which view was correct. But if history had taught Yuna anything, it was this: never bet against humanity. They had a habit of making the impossible look easy. She walked toward her ship with steady steps. There was work to do. The ship landed on DX-14 with a hard thump that shook everything inside. Tay Kang grabbed the wall to keep himself from falling. Through the small window, he could see nothing but brown dust and gray rocks stretching to the horizon. Welcome to paradise, said Hana Lee, his second-in-command. She was looking at the readings on her screen. Outside temperature is -42 degrees. Air is 90% carbon dioxide, with traces of sulfur. Wind speed is 120 kilometers per hour. Visibility is about 50 meters because of the dust. Perfect weather for a picnic, Tay said. Nobody laughed. The team of 20 humans sat in silence, looking at the dead world that would be their home for the next several years. Some of them were scientists. Some were engineers. All of them had volunteered for this mission, knowing that they might never see Earth again. Listen carefully, Tay said to his team. I will not lie to you. This planet wants to kill us. Every moment we spend here, we are fighting for our lives. The air will poison us. The cold will freeze us. The storms will bury us. But we are not going to let that stop us. He pulled up a holographic image of the planet. It showed nothing but wasteland in every direction. This is what DX-14 looks like today. In 5 years, I want grass growing here. I want water flowing. I want air that we can breathe without masks. The Galactic Council says this is impossible. I say we prove them wrong. A young woman named Sora raised her hand. She was the youngest member of the team, only 23 years old. How do we even start? The previous attempts used massive machines and failed. We do not have that kind of equipment. Tay smiled. That is exactly why we will succeed. The old methods tried to force this planet to change. They built giant factories to produce oxygen. They pumped chemicals into the ground. They tried to control everything. And the planet fought back every time. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small container. Inside were tiny organisms, too small to see with naked eyes. We are going to try something different. We are not going to fight the planet. We are going to work with it. Hana stepped forward. Those are modified bacteria. We designed them on Earth specifically for this mission. They eat carbon dioxide and release oxygen. They can survive in extreme cold and heat. They multiply fast and spread even faster. We are going to plant life, Tay said. Small life. Patient life. Life that will slowly change this world from the inside. It will take years instead of months. But it will work. It has to work. The team spent the first week building their base. They worked in heavy suits that protected them from the deadly air. Every breath they took came from tanks on their backs. Every step was a struggle against the wind and the cold. On the 8th day, they were ready. Tay stood at the edge of their small camp with Sora and Hana beside him. In his hands, he held the first container of bacteria. This moment would either be the beginning of something wonderful or the start of another failure. Any last words? Hana asked. Tay thought for a moment. The galaxy gave up on this world. But we did not come here to give up. We came here to create life where there was none. Whatever happens next, remember that we tried. That matters more than success or failure. He opened the container and released the bacteria into the wind. For a long moment, nothing happened. The brown dust swirled around them. The gray sky pressed down like a heavy blanket. The world looked exactly the same as it had before. Then Sora pointed at her scanner. They are multiplying. The bacteria are alive and spreading. Tay felt his heart beat faster. This was only the first step of 1,000 steps. But it was a step forward. Over the next months, the team worked without rest. They released more bacteria. They planted special seeds, designed to grow in toxic soil. They built small shelters where young plants could survive the worst storms. Most of their work failed. Seeds died. Bacteria colonies collapsed. Storms destroyed weeks of progress in a single night. But some things survived. Small patches of green appeared in the endless brown. Tiny organisms began to change the air, one molecule at a time. The galactic observers arrived 6 months after the humans landed. There were 3 of them. A Kalori scientist named Drex, a Mendari inspector named Vela, and a representative from the Galactic Council named Torin. They came to document another human failure. They brought recording equipment to capture the moment when the humans finally admitted defeat. Drex walked through the human camp with obvious disgust on his face. He had 6 eyes, and all of them showed disappointment. "This is your great project?" he asked Tay. "A few tents and some bacteria. The Kalori Empire used machines the size of mountains. We pumped enough energy into this planet to power a star. And you think your tiny organisms will succeed where we failed?" Tay did not get angry. He simply pointed to a small patch of ground near the edge of camp. "Look at that." Drex looked. His 6 eyes went wide. Growing in the toxic soil was a small plant. It was only a few centimeters tall, with thin green leaves that shook in the wind. It was the most beautiful thing Tay had ever seen. "That is impossible," Drex whispered. "Nothing can grow in this soil. We tested it 1,000 times. The acid levels alone should kill any plant within hours. We modified the plants to handle the acid," Sora explained. "Their roots actually break down the toxic chemicals and use them as food. The more poison in the ground, the faster they grow." Vela, the Mendari inspector, was scanning the air with her equipment. Her face showed confusion. "The oxygen levels have increased by 0.3% since your arrival. That should not be possible in such a short time. The bacteria work faster than we expected," Hana said. "Give us a few more years, and the air will be breathable." Torin, the council representative, watched everything in silence. He was an old creature with gray skin and tired eyes. He had seen countless terraforming projects fail. He had written reports about human foolishness and wasted resources. Now he was not so sure. "How are you doing this?" he finally asked Tay. "We have studied terraforming for 10,000 years. We have technology you cannot imagine. Yet you come here with bacteria and seeds and somehow you make progress. I do not understand." Tay thought about the question carefully. "You tried to change the planet all at once," he said. "You wanted fast results, so you used massive force. But planets do not change that way. They change slowly. Over time, through millions of small actions." He knelt down next to the tiny plant. "We are not fighting this world. We are helping it become what it could be. We are patient. We are stubborn. And we do not give up just because something seems impossible." Drex made a sound of disbelief. "Patience? Stubbornness?" These are not scientific methods. These are emotions. Maybe that is exactly what was missing, Torin said quietly. Maybe we were so focused on technology that we forgot about determination. The observers left after 3 days. They promised to return in 1 year to check on progress. That night, Tay stood outside the camp and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, Yuna was watching, waiting for news. 78 other teams were fighting their own battles on their own impossible worlds. A small patch of green was growing in the brown dust behind him. It was not much, but it was a start. And for humans, a start was all they ever needed. 3 years had passed since the humans first landed on DX-14. The galaxy had mostly forgotten about them. There were bigger stories to tell, larger dramas to follow. The foolish humans and their impossible planets had become an old joke that nobody remembered. Then the pictures arrived. A Kalori trading ship had passed through the sector on its way to somewhere more important. The captain, out of curiosity, had taken some images of the planet below. What he saw made him forget about his destination entirely. The brown was turning green, not everywhere, not completely, but across thousands of square kilometers. Patches of vegetation were spreading like ink on wet paper. Rivers of dark water flowed through valleys that had been dry dust 3 years before. The toxic brown sky was lighter now, almost yellow in places where the air was cleaner. The images spread across the galactic network in hours. By the end of the day, they had been viewed by billions of beings across 1,000 worlds. By the end of the week, ships from every major civilization were heading toward DX-14 to see for themselves. Tay Kang did not have time for visitors. He was too busy. The base camp had grown into a small town. 200 humans now lived and worked on DX-14. They had built greenhouses, water treatment plants, and oxygen generators. More importantly, they had planted forests. The trees were not normal trees. They had been designed in laboratories on Earth to survive in harsh conditions. Their leaves absorbed toxic gases. Their roots broke apart poisoned rock and turned it into soil. They grew faster than any natural tree, sometimes gaining a meter in height in a single month. But the trees were only part of the miracle. Tay stood on a hill overlooking the largest forest on the planet. It covered an area the size of a small country. Inside its borders, the air was almost breathable. Animals brought from Earth were beginning to adapt. Insects buzzed between the strange purple flowers that grew in the shade. Hana walked up the hill to join him. She was carrying a small device that showed readings from all across the planet. The atmospheric oxygen is now at 8%, she reported. Up from almost 0 when we arrived. Carbon dioxide is down to 60%. At this rate, we could have breathable air in another 5 years. 5 years, Tay repeated. He remembered what the Kalori scientist had said during that first visit. Mountains of machines. Enough energy to power a star. All of it had failed, and yet here they were. There is something else, Hana said. Her voice was strange. The Galactic Council is sending an investigation team. They want to know if we cheated somehow. Tay laughed. It was a tired laugh, but a real one. Cheated? How could we possibly cheat at terraforming? They think we might have found some ancient technology. Or maybe we used illegal methods that will cause damage later. They cannot believe we did this with bacteria and seeds. The investigation team arrived 2 days later. It was led by Inspector General Morath, a tall being with silver skin and no visible face. He brought 50 experts from different species, all of them carrying scanning equipment and suspicious attitudes. Morath walked through the forests with Tay at his side. His experts tested the soil, the water, the air, and the plants. They looked for hidden machines. They searched for forbidden chemicals. They scanned for technology that should not exist. They found nothing but life. I do not understand, Morath said finally. His voice came from somewhere inside his silver body. The reports say this planet was impossible to terraform. We have documentation going back 12,000 years. Every attempt failed. Every method failed. How did you succeed? Tay pointed at a group of human workers in the distance. They were planting new trees by hand, one at a time, in the hard ground. Do you see those people? They have been doing that every day for 3 years. 7 days a week. 12 hours a day. When one method did not work, they tried another. When plants died, they planted new ones. When storms destroyed their work, they rebuilt. They never stopped. Morath watched the workers in silence. The Kalori used robots, Tay continued. The Mendari used machines. They programmed their equipment and waited for results. When the results did not come, they declared the project impossible and left. But humans do not work that way. We get our hands dirty. We feel the soil between our fingers. We watch each plant grow and die and grow again. This is not just a project to us. It is personal. Personal. Morath repeated the word like he had never heard it before. Yes. Every person here chose to be here. They left their families, their homes, their comfortable lives. They came to this dead world because they believed they could bring it back to life. That belief is more powerful than any machine. Morath was quiet for a long time. His experts finished their scans and reported that everything was legitimate. The humans had not cheated. They had simply done what everyone else had said was impossible. The Council will want to study your methods, Morath said finally. This could change everything we know about terraforming. Moraths. They are welcome to study, Tay replied. We have no secrets. But I do not think our methods are the answer they want. Machines are easy. Determination is hard. Most species prefer easy. Morath made a sound that might have been agreement or might have been doubt. That night, the humans held a celebration. It was the 3rd anniversary of their arrival on DX-14. 3 years of struggle, 3 years of failure and success, 3 years of turning impossible into possible. Sora stood up to give a speech. She was no longer the youngest and most uncertain member of the team. 3 years of hard work had made her strong and confident. When we first came here, I was scared, she admitted. I looked at this dead world and I could not imagine how we would ever change it. Every day, I expected someone to tell us we were going home. Every night, I dreamed of green fields and blue skies. She looked around at her colleagues, her friends, her family. Now I look out my window, and I see those green fields. Not everywhere. Not yet. But they are there. We made them. With our hands and our sweat, and our stubborn refusal to accept failure. We proved that humans belong among the stars. The crowd cheered. Some of them were crying. Tay raised a glass of water. Real water. Filtered from the rivers they had created. To DX-14, he said. Our home. Our home. Everyone repeated. Somewhere across the galaxy, Una Park received the investigation report. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood. The Galactic Council had officially confirmed that DX-14 was being successfully terraformed by humans. The impossible was happening, and it was only the beginning. 46 other planets were showing similar progress. 46 other impossible worlds were coming back to life under human care. The galaxy was starting to pay attention. Una smiled and began planning for what would come next. The real work was about to begin. The conference room on Station Prime was full for the first time in years. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy had come to hear Una Park speak. They sat in rows of floating chairs, their eyes fixed on the small human woman at the center of the room. 5 years had passed since the auction. 5 years since Una had bought 79 dead worlds for almost nothing. 5 years since the galaxy had laughed at her. Nobody was laughing now. 47 planets, Una said. Her voice was calm and clear. 47 of our 79 projects are now showing significant terraforming progress. 23 of those have reached the point where humans can walk outside without breathing equipment. 12 have established permanent ecosystems that no longer require constant maintenance. She pressed a button, and holographic images filled the room. Planet after planet appeared, each one showing the same transformation. Brown turning to green. Gray skies becoming blue. Dead rock becoming living soil. These results are impossible, said Chief Scientist Krell of the Kalori Empire. He was an old being with 8 eyes, and all of them were wide with disbelief. We spent 300 years trying to terraform these worlds. We used methods developed over 10,000 years of experience. We failed completely. How can humans succeed in only 5 years? Because you gave up, Yuna said simply. The room went silent. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. I mean no disrespect. Yuna continued. Your scientists are brilliant. Your technology is advanced. But you approached these planets with the assumption that they could not be changed. You tried your standard methods, and when those methods failed, you declared the planets impossible and moved on. She pointed at the holographic images. We came with no assumptions. We tried everything. When one approach failed, we tried 10 more. When those failed, we tried 100 more. We experimented constantly. We adapted to each planet's unique conditions. We did not have 10,000 years of experience telling us what was impossible. We only had determination telling us to keep trying. Ambassador Vorlin, the same official who had run the auction 5 years ago, leaned forward in his chair. Your methods are impressive, Director Park, but let us discuss the real reason we are here. You now control 47 habitable or nearly habitable worlds. That makes your small company one of the largest landowners in the galaxy. What do you intend to do with all this real estate? The question hung in the air. Everyone in the room knew its importance. 47 new planets meant resources, living space, power. Wars had been fought over single worlds. What would happen when one species controlled so many? Yuna smiled. It was the same small smile she had shown Vorlin 5 years ago. We intend to share them. The room exploded with noise. Representatives shouted questions. Some demanded clarification. Others accused her of lying. It took several minutes for order to return. Explain what you mean by share, Vorlin said carefully. Exactly what it sounds like. These planets will be open to all species equally. Any being from any world can apply to live there. We will not charge for land. We will not demand payment. The only requirement is that settlers help maintain the ecosystems we have created. That is insane, Krell sputtered. Those planets are worth trillions of credits. You could buy entire star systems. You could become the most powerful species in the galaxy. Why would you give that away? Yuna walked to the center of the room. She looked at each representative in turn. Humanity is young. We have only been among the stars for 65 years. We have seen how the galaxy works. Species fight over resources. Empires rise and fall. Wars destroy what took centuries to build. And through all of it, nobody has time to help those who need it most. She pulled up a new set of images. These showed refugee camps on crowded stations. They showed species whose homeworlds had been destroyed by war or disaster. They showed children growing up in metal corridors, never knowing the feel of wind or the smell of grass. There are billions of beings in this galaxy who have no home. Their planets are gone, destroyed, or taken from them. They live in stations and ships, always moving, never belonging. We wanted to build something different. We wanted to create worlds where everyone is welcome. The room was quiet now. Even Krell had stopped his complaints. This is our gift to the galaxy, Yuna said. Not 79 planets. Not real estate. But hope. Hope for those who have none. A chance for new beginnings. After the conference, Yuna returned to her private ship. Tay was waiting for her on the communication screen. He looked older than he had 5 years ago. His hair was starting to turn gray at the edges, but his eyes were bright with pride. I watched your speech, he said. The whole team watched. They are crying, Yuna. All of them. They cannot believe what we are doing. Believe it, she said. We did not come this far to become landlords. We came to prove that humanity has something valuable to offer the galaxy. Something more than technology or strength. Compassion, Tay said. Yes, and stubbornness. She allowed herself a small laugh. Lots of stubbornness. Outside her window, Yuna could see the lights of Station Prime. Thousands of ships came and went every hour. Billions of lives moved through this single point in space, most of them struggling just to survive. Soon, Some of those lives would have new options. New planets, new homes. In the days that followed, the applications started arriving. First hundreds, then thousands, then millions. Refugees from destroyed worlds. Families seeking new opportunities. Beings who had given up hope and now found it again. The galactic corporations tried to stop them. They offered Una money, power, entire star systems in exchange for her planets. Some even threatened war. Una refused every offer. Her company was small and weak compared to the great empires. But the galaxy was watching now. Any attack on the human terraforming project would be seen by everyone. Public opinion had shifted. The laughingstock had become a symbol. On DX-14, Tay welcomed the first group of alien settlers. There were Kalori families whose home planet had been destroyed in a war. There were Mendari refugees who had spent generations on crowded stations. There were children who had never seen a tree before. Tay watched a young Kalori girl touch the bark of a tree for the first time. She had 6 eyes, like all her species, and every one of them was full of wonder. "Is this real?" she asked him. "This is really real?" "It is real," Tay promised. "And it is yours now. All of it. You are home." The girl started crying. Her parents came and held her. They cried too. Around them, the forests of DX-14 rustled in the wind. The sky was blue now, or close to blue. Rivers flowed through valleys that had been dead dust 5 years before. Life was everywhere, growing and spreading and reaching for the stars. The galaxy had called these worlds impossible. Humans had called them home. And now, that home was being shared with everyone who needed it. Tay looked at the crying family and felt tears in his own eyes. This was why they had worked so hard. This moment, this feeling, the knowledge that their stubbornness and determination had created something beautiful, something worth fighting for. 10 years had passed since the auction. 10 years since a small human woman bought 79 dead worlds and changed the galaxy forever. Una Park stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city of DX-14. The planet had a new name now. The settlers had voted to call it Haven. It was the first of the human terraforming worlds to be completed, and it was beautiful beyond words. Below her, the city stretched to the horizon. Buildings made of local stone rose between forests of purple and green trees. Rivers flowed through parks where children played. The sky was blue and clear, filled with birds that had been brought from a dozen different worlds. 3 million beings lived on Haven now. Kalori, Mendari, humans, and 100 other species. They had built homes and businesses and lives together. They had become neighbors, friends, family, and Haven was only one of 79. "All of them are complete," said Hana, walking onto the balcony. She was older now, with gray in her hair and lines around her eyes. But she was smiling. She had been smiling a lot lately. The last planet officially passed terraforming standards this morning. All 79 worlds are now habitable. Una let the words sink in. All 79. Every single planet that the galaxy had thrown away. Every impossible project that the greatest civilizations had abandoned. Done. "How many people?" Una asked. "Across all 79 planets?" "About 200 million settlers and growing. We are receiving 50,000 new applications every day. Families, refugees, beings just looking for a fresh start. There is not enough room for everyone who wants to come." "Then we need more planets," Una said quietly. Hana looked at her with surprise. "More? We just finished 79. The team is exhausted. We have been working for 10 years without rest. And you want to do more?" "Wheezy." "I must know." Una turned to face her old friend. Her eyes were tired but determined. "The galaxy has thousands of planets labeled impossible. Thousands of worlds that could be homes for billions of beings. What we did here is only the beginning, Hana. We proved it can be done. Now we need to teach others how to do it." Below them, the city continued its busy life. A Kalori merchant was selling fruit to a Mendari customer. Human children were playing a game with alien friends. Music from a dozen cultures mixed together in the warm afternoon air. This was what humanity had built. Not an empire. Not a territory. A community. A place where everyone belonged. That evening, the Galactic Council held a special ceremony on Haven. It was the first time the Council had ever met on a formerly impossible planet. Representatives from every species in the galaxy had come to witness history. Ambassador Vorland stood at the podium. His blue face was serious, but there was something new in his expression. Respect. Genuine respect. 10 years ago, I sold 79 planets to a human representative. I thought she was a fool. I thought humanity was wasting its time on projects that could never succeed. I was wrong. He paused and looked at Yuna, who sat in the front row with Tay and Hana. The human species has accomplished something unprecedented. They have not only terraformed impossible worlds, they have opened those worlds to everyone. They have asked for nothing in return except cooperation and peace. In the 10,000-year history of galactic civilization, no species has ever shown such generosity. The audience was silent. On millions of screens across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and listened. Today, the Galactic Council officially recognizes the 79 human terraforming worlds as independent territories under human protection. We also offer a formal apology to humanity for our dismissal of their capabilities. You have proven that you belong among the stars. More than that, you have proven that you can teach the rest of us something important. He turned to face Yuna directly. What is it that humans see when they look at an impossible problem? What drives you to keep trying when everyone else has given up? AP. Yuna stood slowly. She walked to the podium and looked out at the crowd of alien faces. Some had 6 eyes. Some had no faces at all. Some were made of light or crystal or living metal. All of them were watching her with attention. We see possibility, she said. That is the only answer I have. When you look at a dead planet, you see data that says it cannot be changed. When we look at the same planet, we see what it could become, not what it is. What it could be. She thought about her team. About Tay, who had spent 10 years getting his hands dirty in toxic soil. About Hana, who had stayed up countless nights solving problems that were supposed to be unsolvable. About Sora and the hundreds of others who had given everything to make these worlds live. Humans are not special because we are stronger or smarter than other species. We are special because we refuse to accept limits. When someone tells us something is impossible, we hear it as a challenge. When a project fails, we see it as a lesson. We do not have the wisdom of 10,000 years. Maybe that is our advantage. We have not learned yet what cannot be done. The ceremony continued late into the night. There were speeches and celebrations and promises of cooperation. The great empires that had once laughed at humanity now spoke of partnerships and shared projects, but Yuna slipped away before it ended. She found Tay standing alone at the edge of the city, looking up at the stars. Quite a journey, she said, joining him. The journey is not over, Tay replied. You said yourself we need more planets. More homes for those who need them. Are you ready to start again? Tay was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It was the same smile he had shown 10 years ago when she had first asked him to lead the mission to DX-14. I was born ready. That is what humans do. Is it not? We finish one impossible task and immediately start looking for the next one. Yuna laughed. A real laugh, for the first time in months. The galaxy thought we were the weakest species. Now they know better. Now they know, Tay agreed. Above them, the stars shone bright and clear. Each one might have impossible worlds waiting to be transformed. Each one might hold future homes for those who had nowhere else to go. Humanity had proven itself. Not through war or conquest or technology, but through patience and determination, and an endless refusal to accept defeat. The 79 planets were just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there was so much work left to do. But if there was one thing humans knew how to do, it was work. Yuna looked at the stars and smiled. Not yet, she whispered to the universe. That is all any impossible really means. Not yet. And somewhere out there, In the darkness between stars, 79 impossible worlds shone with new light, living proof that humans had found their place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as gardeners, and the garden was only beginning to grow.